Hello, hello. Welcome into the PHNX Cardinals Podcast, presented to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, America's top-rated sportsbook. Be sure to like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. I'm Johnny Venerable. He is Bo Brock. Man, oh man, do we have a loaded, what is this, Thursday show in late February with a ton of news coming from the Arizona Cardinals' new head coach, their growing coaching staff. But, Bo, I want to start with Michael Bidwill, team president and owner of the Arizona Cardinals, making what seems like very telegraphed rounds to just about everywhere but this show. Michael, welcome. We'd love to have you on the show. And coming up with a lot of insight that I think Cardinal fans are going to find interesting and maybe a little thought-provoking as we enter the offseason.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Obviously, what they've been craving, right? They want to hear a status update, a true status update of their franchise quarterback, Kyler Murray. And then he kind of gave us even a little bit more. I don't think we ever got our uniform answer yet. Maybe we'll get that. As he said, we're gonna ask that question next week in Indy. But as far as what's going on with Michael Bidwill, yeah, making the rounds, doing his media appearances for the flagship, talking to his guy, play-by-play. Dave Pash, who's got a great podcast where he has, guests from owner Michael Bidwill to Bill Walton, who he does play-by-play with at the college basketball level. And I thought the insight was invaluable. I mean, as far as what we got from Bidwill on the podcast that dropped yesterday, it's the Pash cast, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. And there were a bunch of quick hitters. He also was on 98.7 earlier today. So I think a lot of these talking points are similar. But we put aside a couple here that I want to make sure we cover. And, of course, the very first thing that's on everybody's mind, and you had an opportunity to speak with Jonathan Gannon about this earlier today, is that Kyler Murray could, in fact, return earlier than midseason. So we initially got those reports that it was going to be mid to late next season. There is some, trepidation with the fan base. Maybe he'd miss all of next season. Michael Bidwill is basically saying, hey, guys, we're cautiously optimistic that, of course, there could be a setback. Something could happen. But right now, he's ahead of schedule. He's a fast healer, and they expect him, Bo, back at some point earlier than midseason next year at this rate.
I mean, giddy up. Buckle up. Got to be excited about that. But we talked to Dr. David Chow, didn't we? The former Chargers doctor and a guy that pretty much keeps tab as far as social media goes. He's your MD, right? He's the guy that anytime a big injury happens, he's first on social media, diagnosing it, figure out, what's the timetable look like? Will this player be the same? How serious is the injury? And he told us on Radio Row a couple weeks ago, it's like, yeah, Kyler Murray could return way earlier than midseason. He could come back week 1 if he wanted to. And that's on the heels of the report from Ian Rappaport saying, Kyler Murray, he could miss half the season. And is he going to be the same quarterback? He's going to make sure this thing heals perfectly. It's like, yeah, he could get back week 1 and he could be a pocket passer and he could be a shell of the athlete that we know Kyler Murray to be. And Drew Petzing kind of talked about how he would utilize Kyler Murray, the athlete. But I mean, as far as what David Chow said, is like, yeah, he could heal quickly. He could go through the rehab and he could be back week 1. But I still don't know, is that the quarterback that we know that we've seen play at a high level and have that elite athleticism? I still don't know, even on the comments from Michael Bidwill.
Well, and I think you want to make sure he has full grasp of the offense, first and foremost. This is an offense that, by and large, and Michael Bidwill spoke on this, that he didn't say something to the effect of it put too much pressure on Kyler Murray, but Kyler Murray almost had like too much responsibility when in the shotgun, where everything had a run-pass option. And it didn't, basically, he said a bunch of words that basically implied Kyler Murray was not set up for success in Cliff Kingsbury's offense. And what they're going to try to do, and we'll have an opportunity to hear from Drew Petzing a little bit later on in the show, is they're going to simplify things. They're going to make it a well-oiled machine for Kyler Murray to inherit. And hopefully that leads to some bootlegs, some him playing under center, a running game that's more revamped for the first time in a long time. I would be cautiously optimistic if I was a Cardinal fan, because I think most of us thought that Kyler Murray would attack this rehab the way he's doing it. There were some people out there that thought he'd sit on his couch and play video games and count his money. But no. I mean, there's a piece of information that we got from Jonathan Gannon in the presser today. I don't have the clip of it, but I'm just going to, I'll spoil it if you haven't heard it. Basically saying that Gannon, we have the clip right now.
Well, we have one of the clips where he kind of gives an update about Kyler Murray. Well, joking around about playing hoops. This is what he had to say to start things about the conversation about these franchise quarterbacks.
I mean, he's the franchise quarterback for a reason. He's committed to doing his job, so he does what he needs to do to put this team in a position to win. And ultimately, that's what I've really noticed about him through a week and a half now. And it takes time. The one question about relationship and things, that takes time. You know, you got to build that trust over. It's not just like, hey, Kyler, I'm your head coach. Trust me. You know what I mean? So I think all the relationships with all the players and the coaches, as we just started meeting with staffs and things like that, it takes a little bit of time. But what keeps oozing through this guy is his competitiveness, and you know, and that's a different form of competing. What he's doing right now, you know, certain guys have been there, certain hasn't, but it's a hard road, you know, and you have to have the right mindset to do that. And that's what I've been impressed with so far, is just the competitiveness he has in him. Talking a little bit of football with him, the competitiveness he has. Like, we need to get this right because we need to do this to win. You know, that's what I like to hear from, you know, your quarterback.
And that's what the fan base likes to hear, is that their franchise quarterback is working as hard as he possibly can to get back onto the playing field as quick as can. As you said, his head coach, Jonathan Gannon, and that was more of like a clip about, you know, earning each other's trust, but he's already seeing Kyler Murray and his competitive nature and how he's attacking his rehab. Here's more of an update from Jonathan Gannon on Kyler Murray and his rehab process.
What kind of update have you been given since you took over on Kyler's status and what his return will be?
I mean, he wanted to play me one-on-one today, so I don't know. I guess he's doing pretty good, but and I will beat him in one-on-one. But no, he's doing great, and I get some updates. He's doing what he needs to do and right on schedule. And you know, a little quick fact here, I'm probably airing his dirty laundry a little bit, but on what's today, Thursday? Tuesday, I think I walked out of the building at 9-something. He was in there rehabbing. And the only reason I knew he was in there rehabbing because I went another way and I saw this nice car sitting next to mine. And I was like, whose car is that right now? And went back in the building and it was him. So he's been very eager to attack his rehab the way he needs to attack it to get back and being him.
Just living at the facility. You absolutely love to see it, because I think a big question mark, remember when Kyler Murray tore his ACL? And of course, like, we didn't get too much insight from Hard Knocks. I'm not putting too much stock in that. But like, literally there was no footage of Kyler Murray around the team in team meetings, etc., after he tore his ACL. And it's almost like, and I'm not saying Michael Bidwill told him to do this, but it was more like, hey, Kyler, go and rest. We're going to get some people in here that are going to help us win. Take your time, get your surgery. We'll see it, you know, shortly after the new year. Doesn't it feel like something like that happened? Because again, like, the team meetings with Cliff Kingsbury, they had to have Cam Turner be a buffer between he and Cliff, because he and Cliff basically were not on speaking terms. If you read the article from Josh Weinfuss and Jeremy Fowler at ESPN, we had Weinfuss on the show to talk about it. Like, their relationship was inevitably broken. And you saw the frustration that Kyler had with Cliff on the sideline of the Thursday night game against the Saints. It's just like, that relationship was irreparable. And then Kyler Murray tears his ACL, and it's a sinking ship with Cliff and Kime. They're gone now, and it's almost like Kyler can take a deep breath and say, yeah, I can go back to the facility. I can lead my team, and I've got somebody who 100% is behind me.
Yeah, and like, I think it was very unfair at the end of the season where people would be like, well, Budda Baker's there. Budda Baker's traveling with the team. He cracked his shoulder. He didn't tear his ACL. He didn't have a reconstruction of his knee. It's a little bit harder to get on a plane, get off a plane, and move around after you just, one, tore your ACL, and then two, he had surgery January 3rd. So the regular season finale, you really want to put your franchise quarterback traveling from, Dallas to AZ to Santa Clara. I just think that some of that criticism was unfair. And what we're starting to see is that was all for nothing, because this is something that Kyler Murray's taking very seriously. Yeah. And, the previous regime wasn't, willing to share for whatever reason. That's fine. I mean, it's somebody's medical stuff, and that's fine. But I think that with that, and obviously what's in the media and what's reported about Kyler Murray, people kind of jumped to their own conclusions, and those were pretty much wrong. But to your point, it really seems like now it was like, yeah, December and in kind of a week into January. What was the point of being around this facility? This team was a rudderless ship. It was a sinking ship.
Yeah.
This season was it was lost. They lost the last 7 games. What did you want Kyler Murray there to do?
Wave a pom-pom? Yeah.
Right. He got the surgery from the Dallas Cowboys team doctors. It wasn't he just wanted to go home to Dallas to do it. It was because that guy's world renowned for his ability to operate correctly, do the surgery and the procedure correctly, and give Kyler Murray the best shot for this thing to heal perfectly.
Yeah. Kyler around the facility, tackling his rehab. Again, I said this a week ago, full confidence. I think he'll be out there at OTAs, hanging with the fellas, learning the playbook. And he and John Gannon, massive chips on their shoulder, more from the Michael Bidwill hit. This was on 98.7 today that I thought was interesting, Bo. So you and I have kind of gone back and forth. Like, I've been staunchly opposed from trading back at number 3, no matter the draft capital. I don't want a part of ACC pass rushers. I want my SEC.
This is interesting because I don't know what he said. I haven't seen what he said.
So this is the first time that I feel like that could be challenged based on his comments and what I've heard from a reliable source. So this is from Michael Bidwill. Basically, number one, this is a 2-parter, says that draft compensation was the primary factor the team didn't trade for Sean Payton. And he was adamant. He said it was not his yearly salary. They were not in a position with where they want to get the team to surrender the draft capital. He said they tried to talk about other options. He said, obviously, couldn't make it work. The Denver Broncos did. Good for them. He had very nice things, complimentary things to say about Sean Payton, and that's on 98.7. You can go look that up. Fantastic job. But then this is the money quote to me that he said. He basically went in detail about changing their scouting approach fully, and that it won't really take effect until next college football season, but they are going to try to mirror what they do in Tennessee and New England, and to a lesser degree, Philadelphia. And that a lot of like their scouting habits are already in place for this year, and they're going to run a little bit of a hybrid approach. But this was the money line. He goes, we've got a lot of money tied up in a couple of positions. And he said that, not flattery. Like basically like, yeah, we're paying positions that should not be prioritized based on what my new people are telling me. And I took that as wide receiver. And I posted this on Twitter, $57 million going to 3 wideouts right now. And then I think the second is inside linebacker. I've been on that train for a little while because, Bo, he immediately pivoted and said, beefing up the O-line, the D-line, got to get help at corner. We got to be able to rush the passer. Changes will happen over the next several years. We're going to be very draft dependent. So he said, we're not going to be able to fill everything this offseason. Right. But we're going to beef up the D-line, the O-line. We need a corner, and we need pass rush help. So I look at that and I say, there's a chance, I feel like, plus I got a text message earlier today kind of doubling down on this. I think there's a chance that the right package comes along. You're talking about more picks this year, future picks into 2024. They view this as we need to prioritize what the big boy franchises are prioritizing, and that's what we've been speaking on. Look at Philadelphia. Yeah. They prioritize pass rush, O-line, and cornerbacks, right? Tennessee, New England, typically the same thing. The Michael Bidwill has seen the light with his new people involved, which, by the way, I also got this source. Michael Bidwill, and this is music to everybody's ears, is taking a step back for the football people. If you don't watch, I've got that confirmed. If you watch Jonathan Gannon, you know that to be true. He is the most confident guy up there because he and his coaching staff and his GM are all on the same page. So that's right. The Cardinals that we know right now, how they've been built, that's not how things are going to roll moving forward.
I will add this, and it's not an indictment on these two players because they're awesome players. They're probably the 2 best players on the defense in Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson. But as far as investing in the safety positions, it's not something that happens, necessarily around the league. I mean, it's more, up front. It's in that front 7 more than on the back end. I mean, how often do you hear like when you've got safeties leading your teams in tackles? It's not necessarily a good thing. I mean, it's great that you've got these players that are willing not only to get out there week in and week out, despite, where they are as far as their health, and to lay it all on the line in new defensive coordinator Nick Rallis said that Buddha sets the standard. But as you said, this is a couple-year thing. But where you look where the money is, I mean, two players that have locked into some fairly high contracts, and they've earned every dime, no doubt about it, Buddha Baker and Jalen Thompson. And like I said, I mean that is in the best way possible. I just think when you look at how some of these teams are built, it's not built from the back up to the front. It's from the front on back.
It's like the same conversation we have about Isaiah Simmons. You want Isaiah Simmons on your team. You would prefer that he is on your team because he's a good football player. But how much do you pay Isaiah Simmons? How much do you pay Zaven Collins a couple years from now? How much do you pay a pair of high-end safeties when you don't have a pass rush, when you don't have a defensive line, when your interior offensive line is non-existent right now? Those are premium positions. And I think the team building aspect of Steve Keim, we know now, we've doubled and tripled down on this, was flawed. He prioritized positions that most teams do not. And he shit hit the fan because of it. This team was not prepared to go over a 17-game season because even though they had 7, great wideouts on paper, right? Undersized wideouts and inside linebackers and tweener-less, positionless defenders. That's not what most teams do. And so you've got two guys who have succeeded at the highest level. Gannon was in a Super Bowl. He coordinated the defense. Ossenfort was with New England and Tennessee, two of the powers while he was there in the AFC. And they're coming and they're looking at this roster and they're saying, Michael, it's like if you're coming in and you're my accountant and I'm showing you my bank statements and they're like, Johnny, $900 on a magic kit? What's going on here? What's this? Puppeteer lessons, Johnny? What's going on? We need some groceries. We need some bread. We need some milk, right? No. We went to the arcade. We spent $300. Right. Oh, Johnny, that money was supposed to go on your kid's tuition. No. Don't worry about that. That's what the Cardinals were doing.
I got some great Christmas inflatables that I spent just a mint on at Costco. They're awesome, man. You got to see them. My house is the best during the holiday season. It's like, my God, you're thousands of dollars in debt, and then you're pulling a quarter from behind his ear. And he's like, no, I'm going to need that quarter.
Check out my new Arcade Up machine, man. I didn't pay my mortgage last month, but I got a game room now. You're not going to believe it.
You got a brand new car in the driveway, and you got your screen door that's falling off the hinges. It's just like, what are we doing here? Yeah, absolutely. I think that and I would love to be a fly on the wall. For Jonathan Gannon and Monti Ossenfort and Dave Sears, who's according to Kyle Odegaard, a rock star, the assistant GM, the guys who with these deep scouting backgrounds to kind of finally get in the building and see where that's all been prioritized, where the positions they're looking at, the remnants. It's like an episode of The Last of Us, and you see all the old shit on the walls, right? And they're just kind of going through it and seeing who was there before. And it's just like, by God, this is really like how like absurd was it? Because it seems like it's pretty far off from where the new philosophy is. And it's like, it's crazy how long it lasted, how long that they got away with it.
10 years.
And just in a month's time, they're opening the Michael Bidwill's eyes up to a whole new, better world.
Right. Absolutely. It's insane. But again, we should applaud it because it's finally happening.
Absolutely.
How many times we're like, Steve, you got to prioritize defensive linemen, offensive linemen. Where's the push up front? No. We're going to get undersized players from small schools. It's going to be great. You're going to love it. What position does he play? He plays all over. He doesn't even have a position.
Right.
We're so elite. We're ahead of it. I'll never forget. And again, every show we do, it's going to seem like I'm banging on Isaiah Simmons, but he's so excited when Simmons falls to him. He's got his laptop on like an open Tupperware, kitchen Tupperware, and he's just saying, F yeah. And they trotted him out like this unicorn, and nobody knew how to use him. I did a hit, shameless plug, before the show on KOR or KOA in Denver, the flagship station. And they're like, tell me about some players Vance Joseph developed. I'm like, I really can't. They didn't really have an equal philosophy. They would draft players in April, and then the coaches, they would play other players. They didn't know what to do with Isaiah Simmons. So to me, it's overdue. It's music to our ears. But again, to your point, especially with a guy like Jalen Thompson, who can play. He's an NFL player. He's a starting safety. I think 2 years ago, he played at a Pro Bowl level. What do you pay these positions that aren't valued by a lot of teams, right? Like those are going to be very difficult. I mean, James Conner, we love James Conner. He's got a $10 million cap hit this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you ask James Conner to take a pay cut? We're going to buckle up. And we said this at the end of the year. This is going to be a very tumultuous, put the seatbelt on. Damn it. We put the seatbelt on. We're going the speed limit, Hollywood Brown. Yeah. Buckle up.
Buckle the F up.
But because we don't know what this roster is going to look like. And again, we got a super chat here that I think is very on par with the question that we're discussing. Will Monty be aggressive during free agency trades? What do you think? I think it's going to be a twofold. I think trading assets that don't fit what they want to do, accumulating draft picks. And while I think they'll be active in free agency, it will not be like the big tier names. It's going to be guys to fill out the middle of their roster that fit their brand, fit what they want to do. They're not going to break the bank on anybody.
Yeah, you'd have to kind of look at because you're seeing a lot of the talented younger players that you could lock into a controllable deal and probably high dollar deals already starting to see that they're going to get franchise tag. Like somebody like Deron Payne that you would still want to sign to be on the opposite end of a rebuild. It doesn't seem like it's possible. So why go out there and just spend money to spend money when you do have, franchise quarterback salary that's going to hit in a couple of seasons, and it's going to just start to look at, how Cleveland's going to have to build their roster and how Dallas is going to have to start to build their roster. The Arizona Cardinals have to begin preparations to take on a large number at the quarterback position. This year it's 7%. So they got a little wiggle room to churn this roster and get players that can compete well more than the previous season where they went 4-13. And I think that you'll see probably like more quantity over quality this season. And it's gonna help that these coaches have relationships. I already started kind of looking and identifying, who's available and who, just simple connecting of the dots. We've already done it already with Petzing and Jacoby Brissett. Petzing was the tight ends coach. Could he look at Austin Hooper to come in and fill the bridge of the gap between Zach Ertz and have Trey McBride be those 1-2 tight ends?
Could they get Ethan Posick, the center? He's 28 years old. They don't have a center. Right. I mean, to me, it's like go be frugal in free agency, except for the offensive line. If you feel like there are people that can help you right away, you can't trot out Kyler Murray off a torn ACL with a sieve on the offensive line. You mentioned Drew Petzing. We're going to talk about our guy, Drew. I was really impressed with his presser today, Bo. But before, I want to talk to everybody about our friends who are equally as impressive at the DraftKings Sportsbook app. So we just got the tough news. Kevin Durant is not going to make his debut tomorrow night against Oklahoma City. But plenty of games on tap tonight, including Warriors-Lakers game, +6. I like the Warriors. I can get them right now for plus money with the money line on DraftKings. I also like the over in Klay Thompson's total points at 24.5. You can do all that more on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code, you guessed it, PHNX. New customers can bet a mere $5. Get $200 in bonus bets instantly. You don't even have to win your bet. Throw 5 bones on an NFL future bet, NCAA basketball, whatever you want to do. We've got spring training coming up. Place a 5 spot, $200 in bonus bets instantly. You got to use it. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook app. Only with our friends here at PHNX. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See those show notes for details, Bo.
I saw a spicy tweet from our guy, GM Saul Bookman, today. He said not only would the Suns, if they played the Warriors in the playoffs, they would win the series, but not only that, they would sweep them. He's already calling Suns in 4 against the hypothetical series.
That'll go well.
In the Dubs. I like it. It's spicy. Yeah. And the only thing that's going to take that little kick out is some cold brews from our friends over at Four Peaks. Maybe a kilt lifter, crack a cold one. Their flagship, you got the Hop Knot IPA. How about the Joy Bus Wow Wheat? Arizona's #1 wheat beer. One of my personal faves, just hanging out, cracking a beer at home, turning on the game, and drinking a Wow Wheat. You got the Sun Brew. That one's an OG beer for Four Peaks. And then you got Peach, the Golden Ale. Can't go wrong with any of the beverages there. And they've got some great events coming up. How about this weekend? You're not too late to the party. You can get in. If speed, adrenaline is kind of your thing, well, why don't you get into the Beer Can Derby? It's February 25th. If maybe you used to be a Boy Scout or something and you used to get into those derbies all the time, just kind of turn back the clock and go win the Beer Can Derby at Four Peaks 8th Street Pub in Tempe. You got the kit pickups. They're still open right now. So if you want to show up, you can get the fastest beer can in the valley. Sign up through their website, fourpeaks.com/events, but also go down there, get your kit. And while you're there, get some food, get some beer, get some great atmosphere, watch a game, then go home and then put together your winning beer car, your beer kit, your Beer Can Derby kit. You got to be 21 years or older. Enjoy it responsibly, as always.
Our guy Osmar in the chat, $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much, my guy. Could you guys, and I'm going to address this to Bo because he's there at the facility, rubbing elbows with the bigwigs. Can you guys ask Monty or Michael Bidwill if they could do a Spanish version on interviews and other things just because the Spanish fan base is so big? I think that should be happening already. We would love to see that.
I think the Arizona Cardinals do a pretty good job. That they have options for Spanish speakers, more so than any other fan base, right? You can, we had Rolando Cantu on the show on Radio Row. We've had him on a couple times, and he kind of heads up that department. And obviously, they have the Spanish broadcast. But yeah, I mean, I think that absolutely they want to incorporate their fans more and more, and that's a great idea.
It is, and I think they have Spanish subtitles in the meantime. But with this franchise, it's changing every day, and I believe it's changing for the better, Bo. And I love the addition of Drew Petzing as the new offensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals. And just when you got a sense of watching him today, asking him questions, he just felt very sure of himself, sure of his relationship with new head coach Jonathan Gannon and his ability to come in and say, yeah, this isn't going to be like Cliff and Vance. And that's me looking at it as an external, like dueling head coaches. Like he knows he reports to Jonathan Gannon. Shit, you watch Jonathan Gannon in these pressers. I see it in the chat. Like, I'm more impressed with him every time I see him speak because it's like everybody's going to follow this guy. They can tell who's in charge, right? And so Drew Petzing's like, yeah, I know. I have a lot of responsibility on me, not only because I'm here to help Kyler Murray, but just there's only 32 of these OCs available in the world for the NFL, and I'm fortunate to have one of these. What were your initial takeaways from Drew Petzing, the new OC?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of go into it, right? That he's kind of the outlier. Like he's the offensive coordinator, right? But it doesn't he feel like he's kind of a lone wolf right now? And Gannon's doing his best to kind of rein him in. But like Nick Rawlis followed him from Philly. They worked on the staff together. They're defensive guys. And then you've got Petzing who's coming over, and you've got Steele who's tight ends coach, and you got a new offensive line coach, and Drew Terrell's reported to be part of your passing game and work as far as the coordination of that. And then you've got, you got to add like a running backs coach and all that. And that would become more and more of a collaboration. But I was kind of asking him, I was like, you're going to be a first time play caller. Who are you going to lean on as far as game planning and play calling? And Jonathan Gannon's like, well, he's going to help him out with that because he was a first time play caller at one point. And football's football. Now, I mean, is he going to help with, as far as what the offensive concepts are in the scheme? No, but he can also kind of give him his side of the things from the defensive side of the football. And Gannon is excited about, relinquishing play calling duties on the defensive side so he can have his hand in all the coaching and around the organization. So Drew Petzing wasn't going to let anybody know schematically what he's going to do. He really wanted to play that tight to the vest. And Gannon kind of joked like, I already let the cat out of the bag as far as putting Kyler under the quarterback under center more often, which he said really puts the defense at bay. But you liked what you heard from Petzing because he was sure of himself in a position that I would think you would be maybe a little insecure when you're like the lone offensive guy right now in a defensive building. But he remains confident, and that's a good sign.
I mean, they don't have to tell me anything outside of we're going to put Kyler Murray under center. Like, I can get on board with damn near everything after that. You could tell me they're going to wear clown shoes. I'd be like, hell yeah, let's do it. You got Kyler Murray under center. I'm good to go. And again, like, we gamble a lot here at PHNX Cardinals, and we also watch a lot of the early game slates en route to the Cardinals playing in the afternoon, even before Bo, trotted off to Glendale to cover the team during game day before our post-game show. We would watch the early games. We watched, for whatever reason, a lot of Cleveland Brown games this year, especially early on. And I'm not just saying this because it's, the guy running the show with Kyler Murray. The Browns offense was way better than it had any business being. Like, you think about They traded all that draft capital. They had all those external noises, rightfully so, with Deshaun Watson. And here comes Jacoby Brissett on like his 5th team, and he's got a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. And they're methodical, and they can run the football, and they work off of play action, and their quarterback can move. He had the highest completion percentage right before he got benched for Deshaun Watson. I mean, it's like Drew Petzing didn't want to trade for Deshaun. That's not Drew Petzing's call to go out and trade for Deshaun Watson. That might not even have been Kevin Stefanski's call. That was the ownership's call. So to me, it's like these guys were put in a situation which was unbearable with the amount of outside noise and went out and way above performed expectations. Were way more competitive than even the box scores would indicate. So if you want any idea of what the Cardinals plan to do, while Jacoby Brissett and Kyler Murray are not the same player, they have similar skill sets in a lot of ways. Brissett's got a nice arm and he can move a little bit. I am bullish on this. I think that Cleveland is absolutely the model of what the Cardinals should want to do, predicated on the run game early and often. Like you get Kyler Murray back maybe 12 months from now, and he's cooking on all cylinders. He can move like he used to. Integrate that. We'll probably see the best version of this offense. I hope I'm wrong, but probably in 2024. But in 2023, with the ever-changing landscape of the NFC, you've got a 4th-place schedule. You've got winnable games. Run the football. Run the football. Get multiple backs. You already have multiple tight ends. You can be competitive on offense overnight. We saw it with what he did last year in Cleveland.
There's a big part of that Cleveland offense. Did you even say his name, Nick Chubb? I mean,
I didn't know.
He's one of the best running backs in the league, and
draft it back. Go get it back.
Well, exactly. That's going to be one of the things that they're going to be missing, and that they're going to need to identify this offseason. And that's not a knock on James Conner. I thought James Conner was legit at the end of last season. His last 7 games, 7 rushing touchdowns, and a receiving touchdown. He was solid, right? But what you get with James Conner as far as relying on him to take on a workload like Nick Chubb. I think it would be naive to try to do that. So they do need to kind of find a complimentary back or somebody that they can, push some of the workload onto his shoulders. And it doesn't seem like last year gave you any confidence that that's Keontae Ingram, right? So you got to figure it out. Is it going to be through the draft? Is it going to be somebody that you recognize through free agency? You obviously don't want to spend a lot of money on a running back. So I think that's going to be key in order to kind of have that, where if the passing game isn't working, to be able to play a little bully ball and establish the run and kind of get the offensive line going, get the run game going, and then you can incorporate the play action. It's going to come down to finding somebody that can tote the rock and kind of take on some of the excess workload that you couldn't give to James Conner.
And James Conner, I love him. We had him on the show. I think he would probably even tell you behind closed doors, like, I can't hold up if I have 100% of the touches.
I don't know, man. Remember we were concerned about that at the end of last season, and then he took it on, and he seemed to do fine. He really did. But
they need an heir apparent.
But there's a track record there. There's an undeniable track record that I hear you. I hear you.
And I think I'm somebody of the mindset. I don't know how we got off on running backs, but I don't like using early picks on them. But I do understand where these two guys came from. They took Derrick Henry in the 2nd round. Yeah. Chubb was a 2nd round pick. Kareem Hunt was a 3rd round pick. Miles Sanders was a 3rd round pick.
Where could you recoup an extra one of those 2nd or 3rd round picks?
Let's talk about that for a second. So DeAndre Hopkins hasn't met with Jonathan Gannon. Right. And he's saying all the right things publicly. I can't wait to get my hands on him. Well, yeah, maybe not. Monti Ossenfort was on local radio today, 98.7. They were cranking out. They're playing the hits today. Give us some love. Bring us over the GM or the head coach. But in all seriousness, they do a great job, 98.7. But they had a quote. Monti Ossenfort said, I had a great talk with D-Hop a couple weeks ago. I explained to him what my philosophy was. Very different than what Jonathan Gannon said, who said, we can't wait to get our hands on him. Monti was very much like, yeah, I told him what I was going to do. And that's kind of how they left it. So we're very much of the mindset on this show that DeAndre Hopkins is going to be traded. I see a lot of talk on the Twitter streets, like we need to restructure and extend Hopkins. I would be shocked beyond belief if that happened. The Cardinals want to recoup cheap assets to build for the future. We love D-Hop. I wish D-Hop was 21 years old. I'd give him a 10-year contract. Mm-hmm. He's about to be over 30, and he's missed games each of the last 2 seasons. And I think they purposely held him out at the end of the year so he was healthy and ready to go to be dealt right around this time. So what are your thoughts here on hearing Jonathan Gannon's comments, kind of tongue in cheek a little bit about D-Hop? Just basically, that's coach speak, right?
Well, I mean, I asked him. It was both Drew and Jonathan, and I said because I was expecting Gannon to at least say that he's talked to him, but Gannon's been employed since last Tuesday. He hasn't talked to DeAndre Hopkins, and that's not me, knocking Gannon at all. I mean, I just think that that's more writing on the wall to say that this is something that is almost inevitable at this point, unless they couldn't recoup anything beyond like a 4th round pick, which would be absurd for a guy who's still playing at such a high level. But you're right, 31 years old. You heard him on Hard Knocks. You've heard him in interviews talk about, his legacy, and be asked about his legacy and how he wants to be a Hall of Fame receiver. And if you look at his resume, he's got pretty much everything except for what? A title. And he at 31 years old, where, there's not being on that, his shelf life is getting, shorter and shorter. He's not Larry Fitzgerald. He's the exception to the rule. DeAndre Hopkins, if he wants to contend for a title, it's got to start like this season, because he's got 2-3 more years max. So I think that it would be mutually beneficial for both sides. From what we're hearing, all these comments from Monti and Bidwill and Gannon, and where they're eyeing to retool their draft philosophy and scouting philosophy for 2024. The way you do that is creating more assets from your current assets. And, DeAndre Hopkins is probably your most valuable tradable asset that you have right now.
Not
that other
probably
teams are going to want. Yeah,
he is. And I get a lot of this from other teams. But Johnny, he already got traded for a second, and it's a diminishing piece and blah, blah, blah. No, motherfucker. It's like the housing market. It's all about timing, right? Your house 2 years ago may not be worth what it is right now because the housing market changed. Interest rates change. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about. I overpaid in Maricopa. I can't wait to sell this house and move closer to all of you. At the end of the day, go check out what's available in the 2023 free agent market for wide receivers. Not great. They're not trading the Cincinnati Bengals T. Higgins. They're franchise tagging him. They're not letting him go. So it's like, okay, well, let me take a look. It's a lot of Odell Beckhams. It's a lot of Juju Smith-Schuster, DJ Chark, Jacoby Myers. Any of those guys sniff DeAndre Hopkins' jockstrap, even at 30 years old? Hell no. And so you compound that, Bo, with the fact that this receiver class in the draft could have some gems, right? We'll get high on some people. There's no, Jamar Chase. There's no savant top 10 lock. We like the kid from TCU. I've seen some mock drafts. He's going like the back half of the first round. Who is the only plug and play Pro Bowl caliber receiver that will be available? DeAndre Hopkins. And if somebody like Green Bay, if they bring back Aaron Rodgers, said that's the piece to get us over the top, okay, give us your first round pick. Right. I think the people who are selling themselves short that D-Hop is going to be, worth a third and a fourth with his no. Look at what's available and then come back to the table and say, yeah, we can't do anything better. We can throw a bunch of lottery tickets in the draft. That's what the Cardinals are going to do. But if you're trying to win this year and you feel like DeAndre Hopkins can put you over the top, you're going to trade a premium pick for him. And that's what's going to happen. The Cardinals are going to get true value for D-Hop.
And who's the top draft prospect at the wide receiver position? Not like the last 2 seasons. It's not like where you're just like, oh, yeah, Jamar Chase, right? Oh, yeah, Jamison Williams or Garrett Wilson. It's in Drake London. It's not that deep of a class. I'm sure you can find some value. But if the Chicago Bears try to take all this momentum that they have from Justin Fields and then they run back out Chase Claypool and a second-round wide receiver, their fan base is going to go – they're going to riot. And if they've got an opportunity to couple him like the Cardinals did early in Kyler Murray's career and they don't take it with the draft capital and the cap space that they have, I think that would be it'd be as ignorant as it gets.
Yeah, Blake in the chat, Quentin Johnson, pretty nice. Yeah, I would love him on the team.
Absolutely.
But he's never played a snap down in the NFL, right? Justin Jefferson was
he
the
looked
fourth
great streaking down, State Farm Stadium.
He did. My poor guy, Jim Harbaugh, they had nobody to cover him that day at the Fiesta Bowl. But Justin Jefferson was the fourth receiver taken in that first round and by far and away is the best. Jerry Jeudy, not great. We know what happened to Henry Ruggs. We love CeeDee Lamb, but he's not Justin Jefferson. So
Jalen Reagor.
Yeah, not great. And I think, and here's something else I'm going to put in everybody's ear. I think this trade gets done sooner rather than later, because the deeper you go into draft season, but we know this, teams talk themselves more and more into the prospects. Whereas we're at the height of free agency kicking off on March 15th, would not be surprised if this trade happened before then. We remember when it all went down with Steve Keim and Bill O'Brien, it was at the Combine. So does Monti Ossenfort and company put out some feelers next week when we're at the Combine? And that's going to be topic number one when we talk to all the NFL insiders on this show, is what's the latest with D-Hop? Is D-Hop going to get dealt for how much? But I mean, like I would say right now, it would not surprise me if they got a first round pick for him. I'm not expecting that, but you get two teams that are pitting up against each other for him, and somebody's got a late first round pick, they might as well just like, screw it. He's better than anything we're going to get in the draft. We're trying to win. We're trying to win. Right. Like what would happen if a team, not Buffalo, but a Buffalo-S team that cannot get over the hump, and their first-round pick's not going to help them this year? Okay, we can go get D-Hop. We didn't even know D-Hop was available. Remember, teams were calling, per Jordan Schultz, the Cardinals at the trade deadline last year to try to get D-Hop. So I don't think anybody's scared off by the suspension he had last year.
Yeah, and to answer a question in the chat, or a statement in the chat saying the Bears don't have a second-round pick, yeah, they did trade it for Claypool, but they also recouped one from Baltimore. I believe they have like 56th overall in this year's draft. But I mean, Baltimore is a team that you could look at. You know, do they want to pick late in the first round, or do they want to get a stud wide receiver if they end up moving forward with Lamar Jackson? And we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I think that they're going to be, as far as the lack of top flight wide receivers available, you can absolutely get. I still think it's probably a second round pick, but you're not going to get laughed off the phone by saying, hey, if you got a late first, let's talk about it.
He's a generational, all-decade kind of player, and I do think outside of these hiccups recently, his game will age well because it's not predicated on front line speed.
Kansas City just replaced Juju with DeAndre. I mean, that's
a very plausible situation. Yeah. They're just saying, hey, you know what? Everybody thinks they're big. Like, what if Aaron Rodgers goes to the Raiders? They're throwing a party, and they're just like, hey, we just traded for D-Hop. Get to the back of the line where you belong. I mean, I could easily see them doing something like that. And I could see somebody like D-Hop, I don't know this definitively, taking less money to play with Patrick Mahomes. We don't know.
And what do you think the Broncos would do with their new defensive coordinator? Do you think he would think that that's a good
Hang on. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But first, I want to talk to everybody about Underdog Fantasy. I don't know who the Cardinals skill players are going to be next football season, but I know under Drew Petzing, I'm going to be dabbling on Underdog Fantasy. I'm going to be drafting Jacoby Brissett potentially early on. And it's not just predicated on football, friends. Underdog Fantasy does fantasy sports differently, including the NBA. Draft your team against 5 of your friends. The highest scoring squad for that night wins the cold hard cash. You can also draft up to 6 NBA players with no positional limits. That's it. It's like I'm refreshing Underdog Fantasy like every single day. When is Kevin Durant available for my team? Not tomorrow, but into next week. So I'm ready to go. And in all seriousness, guys, Underdog Fantasy, I've pivoted off of year-long fantasy. It's not my jam anymore. Too many busts for me, like Cam Akers this year, where I damn near had to spend 24 hours at a Waffle House. Thank God that didn't happen. And you know what? Underdog Fantasy, they don't put me in those kind of positions like our GM Saul Bookman and that maniac Shane Diefenbach. No. I feel safe with Underdog Fantasy. You should too. It's so easy to get started. Go to underdogfantasy.com, download the app, sign up with promo code PHNX. Get this. Underdog is going to match your first deposit up to $100. I know you guys have heard this read before, and you keep thinking to yourself, man, oh man, I better get on this before I lose that hundy. It's still available. Go get it right now. All you got to do, download the app, use the promo code PHNX, get that free hundy. When you put in a hundy, they're going to match anything up to 100. You don't have 100 to spare? $50, $75, $25, $10, whatever you want to do it with Underdog Fantasy Bowl. Get in on the action today.
You're done with year-long fantasy. I'm done with a certain Swedish furniture company that has the worst instructions of all time. You're sitting there trying to put together a Frug dresser, and you're just lost. You have nowhere to go. You're missing parts. You have no idea what to do with it. And then you thought, damn it, I should have gone to More Furniture. I should have listened to Johnny and Bo. I should have just gone and made it easy on myself. More Furniture. You can unlock 25% off still from the President's Day sale. Just go to their website, morefurniture.com. check out what they have. They've got custom furniture. They've got all the things that you want. They've got some deals right now, some door busters. How about the Bolero 2-power recliner that we have? The black ones, the nasty ones that we have that are in our living space here where we watch games. They're unbelievably so comfortable. They look sleek. They would look perfect in your man cave. Do we still have those? Is that still something we can say? Can we just say,
yeah,
where you watch
like family hangout? Yeah.
How about a 2-power sofa? You can get that one in brown. It's under $1,300. You can find something that's going to make your dining room, your living room, your bedroom, your kids' rooms all look great and all for an affordable price. And you can get that white glove delivery as well, where they can put it together. No more looking at directions. No more looking for pieces that you think are lost. You can find it, and it's all put together in the white glove delivery, put exactly where you want, thanks to More Furniture. Check them out, morefurniture.com. That's MOFurniture.com. Check them out as well, 44th Street in McDowell.
This is not breaking news, but I want to share it because we've been talking about Isaiah Simmons. But this is from Daniel Popper, who covers the Chargers, and I think it's relevant for our conversation. Kenneth Murray, linebacker, I think he went to Oklahoma, was a first-round pick the year Isaiah Simmons came out. Had a better rookie year than Isaiah Simmons, was hurt in 2021, had a decent year in 2022. Not as robust as Isaiah, but he's a true linebacker. Guess what the Chargers are not going to do? They're not going to pick up his fifth-year option with a defensive head coach, with a team that, I don't know, do they value linebackers or not? I'm just saying, like, are we starting to see a trend here with that position where teams are valuing it less and less? But I wanted to throw that out there. I also want to throw out, if you haven't seen this already.
You're just crushing Isaiah today.
I'm not. I'm trying to prepare people.
No wonder he won't come on the show.
No, he snubbed us. Now I'm anti-Isaiah Simmons. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, I talk shit about you.
Don't get fooled again. Right.
Don't get fooled again. So in all seriousness, Vance Joseph, Michael Bidwill, not picking up the tab for old VJ anymore because he stood out and waited patiently, and he's a great human being, high character guy, and he's got a new DC job, and it's back home with our friends at DNVR. Vance Joseph, the new defensive coordinator under Sean Payton in Denver. Bo, your initial reaction, what a shock. What a shock.
Well, look, did you see the finalists for that job?
Yeah, it was like a horror show.
It was Rex Ryan.
Yeah.
Who was the third guy in that? It was Rex Ryan. It was another
Matt Patricia.
Matt Patricia, that's right. I mean, talk about just it's either like a crap sandwich or I don't know, or it was awful. It was awful options, and surprisingly, I think that as far as Vance Joseph having the ceiling of average DC, that's great. That's good for them. You know, I made the same point that you made on KOA on DMVR Broncos today, where I couldn't say definitively which player he developed and took to a solid level for the Arizona Cardinals. I like what I saw from Byron Murphy, but you know, he wasn't extended. Zach Allen, the same thing. He's a guy that's going to hit the open market. And when guys hit the open market, it's because, you know, they didn't do enough to warrant an extension. And that falls on the shoulders of your defensive coordinator. And, you know, I just think you're going to put Vance Joseph in the AFC West, and he's going up against, like we mentioned, Mahomes.
We saw how that went this year.
Yeah, and potentially Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that's going to be a brutal season for the Broncos. And, man, did they just kind of misplay this one as far as their entire coaching search. Now, yeah, I mean, they were the one that didn't shy away from when it came down to it, paying Sean Payton and paying what it cost as far as draft capital and got him. But, man, they're not exactly in the most envious situation. I was telling the guys, like, at DNVR Broncos, Zach and Henry, like, this Jonathan Gannon relationship feels like it was a cheap date that went really well, right?
Yeah.
Like, you had zero expectations, but you hit it off, and you were just going and doing something fun. You went and just played. You found your own fun. You went and played like mini golf, and it went off crazy, and then you went and got drinks afterwards. But this one seems like it was the one that you're courting somebody for a long time. You finally got the date, and then you tried to do it, and it just wasn't great. You just didn't hit it off. It just feels that way.
I love this comment from Elver in the chat. Patrick Surtain going to be rushing the passer. It's funny because it's true and it's sad. In all actuality,
he's going to be rushing the passer, and Randy Gregory is going to be dropping the coverage.
Yeah, I think our guy RK at DNVR had a really good tweet, from a Broncos perspective, because in large part, you can't discount the relationship that Bronco fans had with VJ, which, I mean, let's be honest, anytime we see our peeps at DNVR, it was not good for Vance Joseph with Bronco fans. Now, does the caveat mean, well, you got to take Vance because you got Sean Payton? That's something we would have talked ourselves into. We kind of explored that very, very briefly on this show. But RK said as much on Twitter today, saying he's coming to a place where he has no leash with the fans, and he'll be the scapegoat for any subpar defensive performance. And he's not looking forward to that dynamic. Got to give credit for accepting the challenge. We know he's never one to back away from a challenge. He's a high character guy, but it just seems like, why didn't they just keep Avero? Like, he's a better defensive coordinator right now. That's indisputable. He was a hot commodity. That's indisputable. I think the funniest aspect of all of this that I really want to point and laugh to, because we grave dance on this show, how the fan base in Philadelphia shit on Jonathan Gannon and his staff. They have no defensive coordinator. They have no heir apparent. The Cardinals stole him. They wanted to hire Vance Joseph. Vance Joseph, it sounds like, maybe got paid that sweet, sweet Walmart money to bail on Philadelphia, to go to Denver, to go back to Denver. Maybe he wanted to stay on the West Coast. Who knows? The Philadelphia Eagles, life comes at you fast, friends, in Philadelphia with the Rocky statue. Maybe he can coordinate your defense. You got no one right now. If there's one team I am hedging for a fierce regression next year, it is Philadelphia. Both coordinators gone. Jason Kelsey about to retire. Bunch of free agents. They wanted Jonathan Gannon out of town. Well, this is what you get. Be careful what you wish for. How's 500 sound? How's 8-9 sound, Philadelphia?
Hey, it can be your defensive coordinator. That's my Rocky impression. That's my Sly Stallone. Hey, yo.
Good. It's solid.
Yeah.
Hey, yo.
But yeah, Vance Joseph is willing to go back to the place where he went 11-20 as a head coach and was just basically thrown out of town. He went to college at CU, right? He started as a backup quarterback, for the Buffs, and maybe he wanted to just go back to that part of the country and get paid a mint to do it. And that's fine. But like, to Zach Stevens' points, like, I was listening to him after I joined him. It was like, what are your expectations? What's a solid season for this defense under Vance Joseph? He's like, I can't say that it's a top 10 defense because he's never had a defense perform at a top 10 level ever. You can look at the advanced statistics and it's like, I think they were 6th or 7th last year in DVOA, right? But that was with you get 5 games from Watt and you got, great play from Chandler Jones and crew. But like,
that defense was stacked. It was absolutely stacked.
Deep. It was deep. Robert Alford played really well for like 11 games. It's just, he's just an average coordinator. And that maybe that's the ceiling.
Bail water for a year. What about that super staff that Sean Payton promised? Remember those bullshit Vic Fangio leaks? Like, I'm getting Vic Fangio. We're getting the band back together. It's going to be a mega staff wherever Sean Payton goes. It's legitimately like off the rack Goodwill coaches. I'm sorry, in Denver. Like, so much so that I think a Denver reporter or beat reporter or somebody, I sent you a screen capture of it, was like, what are they doing? They don't have anybody on staff. To which Sean Payton was so like sensitive to the comment, he had to reply to it. I think they've since deleted the engagement, but if you can go find it, check it out. Yeah. Basically saying like, we've hired everybody. We'll let you know when we're ready to unveil it. And then they're like scrambling to get Vance an offer. Like, it seems like, again, we don't have sour grapes on this show.
All the Broncos fans are like, yeah, we have 16.
Get him, Sean. Vance Joseph potentially could be facing off against Herbert, Rodgers, and Mahomes 6 times total next year in the like the Cardinals could not stop teams in the shit NFC with shitty offenses. And we saw what happened when Vance had to coordinate against those AFC defenses. Man, it feels like unless you've got an offense that's humming, that's elite, that he can complement like he did, and you got some cornerstone players that are veterans, it's not a unit that I thought had promise long-term, but Buddhas and Zavins, they love him. They wanted to be the head coach. Thankfully, Michael didn't listen to that, but we wish him well because he's a great human being. He's a great guy. He was always cordial to Bo and I when we've had a chance to connect with him, but he just can't develop young players. And for the Cardinals in particular, that's a no start.
This is not a group in the Denver Broncos defense that is like just a plug and play, right? And it's just like,
No.
okay, I know exactly what to do with it. It still has some parts that need to develop. And it's like, remember the Oklahoma pass rusher Benito? And you're like, oh yeah, he's got some promise. It's like, farewell to his potential. I mean, he's barely going to see the playing field. They're going to bring in Dennis Gardeck or when he gets released, and they're going to bring in Tanner Vallejo, and those guys are going to take snaps. Thank God they don't have a first-round pick that they could potentially use on a first-rounder. I mean, on the defensive side of the football, because he probably wouldn't play. So, no, I mean, well-respected.
Elite graphics by my phone. This was on Nickelodeon. Baker Mayfield put 51 points up on the Broncos defense. That was coordinated by Avero. Now it's coordinated by Vance Joseph.
Bradley Chubb's not in that building any longer. Like no. As far as like elite ceiling guys, you've got Simmons and you've got PS2. I mean, otherwise you got guys that need to be well coached, and you got guys that need to be developed, and they have to be in the right spot. That was not Vance Joseph's defense ever.
We wish Vance well.
That was a great graphic.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm the graphic specialist here. I steal all my graphics from everybody on Twitter. But in all seriousness,
is Gannon Ball right? Is Hassan Reddick? He's throwing a party right now, like they did.
I don't know. You asked me who did Vance develop while in Arizona. I think that's his one kind of saving grace is he told the Cardinals, cut the shit, move Hassan Reddick to outside linebacker. And he did that at the end of his first year. So he probably
that was out of necessity that season, though.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they would. He'd probably be like a practice squad inside backer at this point.
They lost Chandler Jones for the bulk of that season, and he had 12.5 sacks.
Oh, man.
I said Justin Simmons. I mentioned Ty.
Simmons and Patrick Surtain. We wish our friends in Denver well. You know what could help?
Are you rooting against Sean Payton though?
I am. I'm anti Broncos. I'm not anti DMVR. I want DMVR to succeed with our friends RK and company, but I'm anti Broncos. So however we can do that, let me know. I'm going to let you know about our friends at Roman. Yes. Oh yes. I get to do this read today. I missed it last week. I get to double and triple down. Talk about how it is fantastic using Roman. Do you want a better sex life? If so, you are not alone. We're taking a hard right turn from Vance Joseph. Roman is here to help. Roman is the digital health clinic for men, addressing a variety of sexual health needs and offering genuine medication that helps achieve and maintain, you guessed it, a strong erection. Roman offers discreet wipes that help you last 4 times as long in bed. Get those wipes going, my man. In men with low testosterone, getting testosterone levels back to normal can help increase your libido. It's all about the T word, testosterone. Roman offers a testosterone test, which includes lab processing. This is not like a little home test. They send it out to people in white coats. This is a lab that's working on it. And if it's appropriate for you,
beakers and stuff.
Yeah, fucking test tubes and shit. Mortar pestle doing this shit. You need treatment for this low testosterone. They have got you covered. And get this: no waiting rooms, no hassle, straightforward digital experience from the comfort of your own home. I don't want to go talk to people about my sexual experience anywhere but my house. If medication or testing is appropriate, Roman will send it directly right to your door. Plug and play, if you will. Everything arrives in discreet packaging with free, how about this, 2-day shipping. Eat that, other shipping providers. It is where you want to be for an increased beneficial sexual experience. To learn more about how you can achieve your personal sexual health goals, go to ro.co/PHNX to get 20% off your entire first order. That's ro.co/PHNX. I hope that can help somebody out.
Yeah, absolutely. Love our friends over at Roman. We're double dipping today.
Woo! Let's tell the folks what we're doing tonight.
It's the season premiere of Cardinals Flight Plan. If you loved joining us after dark for Hard Knocks or our Card Knocks episodes, I don't know if we don't have any guests lined up like then, or we can burn any bridges with the NFL or NFL films. But we're going to be watching the Flight Plan episode tonight, which should show a lot behind the scenes of this offseason so far. And I think most episodes are like, 20 minutes, right?
Yeah. So it kicks off at 7. We got confirmation. We're going to be going live at 8. So watch the show on YouTube and keep YouTube up. Go get a cold one. Go get a brewski or some wine or whatever you want. And then come back at 8 o'clock. Bo and I are going to recap the episode. We're going to screw around. We're going to have some fun. We're all about having fun this off season. We want to do more cards after darks just to give me an excuse to drink. So again, that's tonight, 8 p.m. But in the meantime, like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star. We got our guy Aris in the chat, $1.99 super chat. Lamar to Indy for the number 4 pick. What are your thoughts on that? I don't hate it. I think Lamar is getting traded, but here's a scenario I got posed with earlier today, Bo. What would be the compensation needed for the Cardinals to go from 3 to 4? Let's say the Bears traded Justin Fields to Atlanta and they took a quarterback and Houston took a quarterback. And then the Cardinals are sitting there at 3 and Indy wants Will Levis or Richardson or whomever's available. What do you think they would have to give up to go from 3 to 4?
I mean, we've seen it like the Bears did that with the Niners a couple years ago, so they could move up one spot and get Mitchell Trubisky. I think you could ask for a second round pick or something like that. I mean, it's nothing too steep.
Could you imagine if that happened? The Cardinals pick 4 and they get an impact player. Then they have pick 34 and pick 35 and a second for D-Hop and 2/3. I mean, you want to talk about kickstarting this rebuild. I'm giddy just thinking about it. Maybe a first next year.
Well, I'm glad you're getting on board. I mean,
I don't love the idea of
trading it.
Every time I refresh Twitter, they're talking about that pass rusher for Texas Tech. I want to gouge my eyes out. But if this franchise, they feel like they're in it for the long haul, they're building something sustainable, I can't be pissed at them for acquiring more draft compensation. But I love me some Will Anderson and Jalen Carter. I don't want to lose them.
I think you weren't on the show, but Detroit has 2 first-round picks. They're at 6 and I think 18. That would help. I mean, 6 gets a little murkier as far as who you're looking at prospect-wise. Wilson could be there. Miles Murphy. You could start to look at some of the offensive linemen at that pick. I mean, you can look at the top corner in the draft. I think that it's something to look into, obviously, because I feel like you're in Detroit's position a couple of years ago, where they were kind of in asset acquisition and kind of starting their rebuild, and now they're on the tail end of that, and they're looking for a guy like Jalen Carter that Brad Holmes would want to pick up and cap off their rebuild and couple him on that front 7 with an Aiden Hutchinson.
Well, you've got relationships now with Tennessee, New England, Cleveland, Minnesota, Philadelphia, and Detroit. I mean, teams that all love to wheel and deal in the draft. We know Philadelphia loves to trade up, trade down. The Cardinals are going to have plenty of offers. We offer you an opportunity to go subscribe to the PHNX Cardinal Podcast wherever you get your podcast. Like this video right now. We're coming off our biggest month to date. That's because of all of you. Just on the heels of the 2023 NFL Combine, where Bo and I will be live every single day. Catch us later tonight. Cards After Dark, 8 p.m. Like and subscribe. For Bo Brock, I'm Johnny Venerable. We'll see you tonight.